Thank you very much. So let's share my presentation. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Professor Byte. And it is my great pleasure to have this opportunity to present our recent research on the 13th International Symposium of ISEG. And the title of my presentation is Modeling Expansive Soil Behavior and Thermal, Hydromechanical, and Chemical Loads by using molecular simulation. So generally, ancestral soil can be classified into two categories as no expansive and expansive soil in terms of their deformation characteristics when absorbing water, and no expansive soil usually consists of stable aggregate and classical interaggregate poles. When the non-expansive soil is soaked with water section that supports the stability of the interaggregate pole reduces, and therefore the wetting clumps behavior can be observed. But after proper compaction, or let's say consolidation, we can pre-compress the interaggregate poles and therefore effectively prevent the collapse of the soil in the wetting events. But different from the non-expansive soil, expansive soil contains some forms of the expansive clay minerals sensitive to the environment. When the expansive soil absorbs water, the aggregates can swell, but the interaggregate pole can still collapse. So therefore, the overall deformation of expansive soil can be either collapse or swelling. Like no expansive soil, compaction or compression can reduce the volume of interaggregate poles and therefore make the swelling behavior predominant. So if the deformation is restricted, the potential of the swelling will become a very huge swelling force, or let's say the swelling pressure to the restrictions like pavements or foundations. So expansive soil are widely distributed in many countries all over the world. More than 20% of Australia's surface is covered by expansive soil, most of which is in the populated regions along the eastern coastline. So for example, in Victoria, the capital city is Melbourne, and this percentage can reach 50%. Expansive soil cause damage to infrastructure throughout the world, such as failure of embankment, buckled and heaved roads and foundations, cracked pavement, pipe leakage, and gas pipe damage. The literature is full of this kind of studies from all over the world, considering the problem associated with expansive soils. So globally, the annual cost of expansive soil problem exceeds the cost of the damage caused by all the other natural catastrophes. So expansive soil problem cost more than $30 billion throughout the world. Two recent examples are presented here. One is the Waterman burst in Adelaide 2016, and the other is the gas explosion in Dallas in 2018. The forensic reports for these two cases both identify expansive soil, or let's say reactive soil, as the key cause of the accidents. On the other hand, the swelling potential of expansive clay mineral due to water absorption can be utilized in many engineering applications. So for example, bentonite, expensive clay consists of, mostly of montmorillite, has been widely employed as a buffering material for constructing clay barrier system for radioactive waste disposal and landfill. In 2018, a worldwide production of bentonite was 20.4 million tons, leading to a global market of about $2 billion. So how to tackle the expensive soil problem and how to make use of expensive clay mineral have challenged engineers and researchers for many years, because the property of expensive soil are extremely complex and they are very sensitive to the many internal and external factors. So the key internal factors include mineral types, interlayer cations, and microstructures. The key external factors include stress level and pH, water content, temperature, and salt concentration. So what we called THMC loads. Because the sensitivity of expensive soil derives from its mineral composition and from nanoscale level. Therefore, the traditional soil mechanics at a micro scale level is hard to describe the nature of the expensive soil, and it's thus hard to capture their complex engineering behavior. So our research, our research aims to provide deep understanding and a practical model for expensive soil at a nanoscale by using molecular simulation. The understanding and the molecular model can be used as a foundation to build up a scale-up model at a meso scale and micro scale. All right, my presentation will cover the following three key aspects. The first, I will talk about how to mimic the swirling pressure of expensive soil by using improved molecular dynamic approach combining DDL method, diffuse double layer method. Then I will focus on revealing the crucial effect of temperature and salinization on swirling behavior of expensive soil. On the last point, I will discuss the stabilization mechanism of cement stabilized expensive soil through molecular simulation and nanoscale analysis. So now let's start with the first point, molecular swirling pressure model. So the DDL method has been widely used for predicting swirling pressure of montmorillite, which is a key swirling clay mineral for expensive soils. Through the DDL method, we can calculate the swirling pressure P by using these equations if we know dry density, soil type, cation exchange capacity, CEC value, and the temperature. However, the performance of the traditional DDL method or model for high dry density range is not as good as it for the low dry density ranges, right? So here we have two examples. We can see for the dry density between 1.1 to 1.4, the DDL method show very good performance for two different expensive soils. However, the predicted swirling pressure is significantly lower than the measured swirling pressure if the dry density is higher than 1.6. To overcome the limitation of the traditional swirling pressure model, we revised the DDL method by using molecular simulation methods. So we developed a molecular odometer model to calculate the repulsive force and the attractive force of DDL. So here we use molten morlite as an example to build up the molecular odometer model. The mechanism of the molecular odometer model is very similar to the 1D odometer swirling test in our laboratory. So in the molecular model, the expansive soil layers is confined at X and Y directions. We add different numbers of water molecules into the interlayer space and increase the vertical pressure accordingly to keep no deformation at that direction. The potential energy VR and the Harmach constant A can be calculated by molecular odometer model. So here, VR is the potential energy related to the repulsive force of the double layer, and the Harmach constant is a constant related to the attractive force of the double layer. We can include these two parameters, or let's say two constants, calculated by using the molecular odometer model into the traditional DDL model equations to calculate the swirling pressure. By using the MD enhanced, MD that is the molecular dynamic model, MD enhanced DDL model, we can quickly predict the swirling pressure of expansive soil at a given water content, dry density, CEC value, and soil type. So here we validate and compare the performance of our model with the traditional DDL model. So we select three kinds of expansive soil to validate the model. As we can see in these three figures, the performance of our model is better than the traditional DDL model, particularly for the high density ranges. We further validate our model for different soil types with different interlayer cations. So we select 8 different kinds of expansive soil here. So different interlayer cations, CEC values, and molten morlite contents are involved. So 4 figures on the left hand side shows the different expansive soil with sodium interlayer cations, and the 4 figures on the right hand side shows the different expansive soil with calcium interlayer cations. So as we can see from these figures, the calculated results from our model all agree well with the experimental results for different soil types, different CEC values, and for different molten morlite contents. So by using our model, we calculate a series of swirling pressure and different dry density. So we can see here, dry density, different CEC values, and different cation types, and produce 2 engineering charts for engineers to first evaluate the swirling pressure of expansive soils. So left figure is for the monovalent cations, and the right figure is for divalent cations. So for example, if we know the interlayer cations type is sodium, and the CEC value is 50, and the dry density is 1.5. So we can easily find the estimated swirling pressure of this kind of expansive soil is about 5 megapascal from the left chart. So in the second part of this presentation, we further incorporate the influence of temperature and the salt solution into molecular swirling pressure model. The key objective here is to understand the swirling mechanism of expansive soil and no isothermal condition with different salt solutions. So to consider the effect of temperature and the salt solution, we developed a Montmorillonite salt solution molecular model here. In this model, we put the Montmorillonite model at the center of the simulation box. Then we introduced different ions and water molecules into the system. Then we calculate the swelling pressure and the different temperature and the different salt concentrations. The top two figures, you can see here, the top two figures presents the swelling pressure of empty Montmorillonite saturated by pure water and the different temperatures. So for each case, we run the molecular model for 10 times and the average value are calculated. So we can see our model can capture the swelling pressure at different temperatures very well compared with the experimental data. So more importantly, we can observe the positive correlation between the swelling pressure and the temperature for pure water condition from both simulation and experiments. And the bottom two figures show the calculated and measured swelling pressure of Montmorillonite with different temperatures and salt type and salt concentrations. So as we can see, the MD model, the molecular dynamic model, can capture the swelling pressure very well at different temperature, different soil, different salt type, and different salt concentration. At the same temperature, we can see here, we have three temperatures. So we have at the same temperature, the swelling pressure decreases along with the increase of the salt concentration. At the same salt concentration, the swelling pressure decreases with the increase of the temperature. And this observation is different from that at the pure water condition. So we would like to know what is the mechanism leading to this difference. We use the MD model to simulate the variation of swelling pressure of Montmorillonite over a wide range of temperature and salt concentrations. The result of the sodium chloride sample are shown here. As the salt concentration increase, so the relationship between the swelling pressure and the temperature clearly change from positive to negative. So here we divide the swelling pressure temperature plot into three correlation zones. So we have in zone 1, the salt concentration is low, including pure water, there is no salt. So the swelling pressure increase with the increase of temperature. In zone 2, the salt concentration is in a middle range. So we can see this pink area. The swelling pressure temperature relationship first show positive correlation and then negative correlation. In zone 3, the salt concentration is high and the swelling pressure decrease along with the increase of the temperature. In the transition zone, zone 2, we can have a critical temperature line by connecting all the turning points at each salt concentration value. So in the area below this critical temperature line, so we can see this yellow region, the Montmorillonite shows heating strengthening behavior. And in the area above the critical temperature line, the Montmorillonite shows heating or weakening behavior. For the calcium chloride saturated sample, we can see a very similar observation. So we can still divide the swelling pressure temperature relationship into 3 zones with the different salt concentration. The difference is the size of the transition zone for the calcium chloride saturated montomorolite is a little bit smaller than that of the sodium chloride saturated montomorolite. To experimentally confirm the different swirling temperature relationship in 3 zones, we employ high resolution TEM test on montomorolite sample with different temperatures and different salt concentrations. So we measure the lattice distance between montomorolite layers as shown in figure E and figure F for different salt types. So the greater lattice distance between montomorolite layers in the free swirling condition directly corresponds to the higher swirling pressure in the confined condition. So as shown in these 2 figures, figure C and figure D, we do observe 3 different zones from the experiment. In zone 1, rising temperature enhances the swelling of the montomorolite layers. In zone 2, the correlation between lattice distance and temperature changes from positive to negative. In zone 3, the increase of temperature weakens the swelling of the montomorolite layers. This microscopic observation show good agreement with molecular simulation results. Excuse me. We further performed more fundamental analysis by using the molecular simulation, such as hydration energy analysis and hydration state analysis. So based on this analysis, we can review the overall control mechanism of temperature and salt solution on the swelling of montomorolite. So in zone 1, the hydration energy of montomorolite controlled the swirling behavior of the montomorolite. The interlayer cations show a stable 2-layer hydration structure. As the increase of the temperature, hydration energy increase, and therefore in zone 1, a swirling pressure increase with the rise of the temperature. In zone 2, the hydration state of the interlayer cations is unstable. At a given salt concentration, the 2-layer, you can see here, the 2-layer hydration structure of the interlayer cations may transfer to the 1-layer hydration structure due to the change of the temperature. So in this zone, hydration energy of the montomorolite and the hydration state of the interlayer cations jointly govern the swirling behavior of the montomorolite. So therefore, in the zone 2, the swirling pressure temperature correlation changes from positive to negative when temperature increases. In zone 3, the interlayer cations can maintain a stable 1-layer hydration structure. So the hydration energy of the montomorolite govern the swirling of the montomorolite again. With the increase of the temperature, in the zone 3, the hydration energy of montomorolite decreases. So therefore, the swirling pressure decreases with the rise of the temperature. All right, to prevent the damage caused by expensive soil, some chemical treatment are widely used, like cement and lime, to evaluate the efficiency of the same on stabilizing the expensive soil and understand the stabilization mechanism of 4 types of cement stabilized montomorolite molecular model with the different interlayer cations and surface charges are studied here. So here I'm conscious about time, so I just skip the model part and the validation part. So we just directly go to the some findings. So we can see here the natural expansive clay layer can have different surface charge densities. So we use our model to calculate the volume change and the different surface charge and water content conditions. So we can see here the y-axis is water molecular number, and the x-axis is the surface charge. All right, and the water molecular number represents the total amount of water added into the cement stabilized expansive soil system, and the surface charge represent the amount of the charge of the montmorillite surface. Right. In these figures, the color variation represent the variation of the volume change. So the red area means high swelling volume, and the green area means low volume change, and the blue area means the negative swelling. So at the same amount of the cement, as we can see, the potassium, calcium, and magnesium-based montmorillite has more green and light blue areas, which means the volume stability of these samples are better than the sodium-based expansive soils after cement stabilization.
Professor Zhou, we have 1 minute left. Sorry for the interruption.
That's fine. And so I would just skip this and just come to the final conclusion about this part. So based on the nanoscale analysis, so we can find the volume change of the cement stabilized montmorillite not only depend on the water absorption capacity of the montmorillite, but also related to the interface energy of the cement montmorillite interface and the competitive water absorption between the CSH and montmorillite. All right, and the final concluding remarks. So we propose a series of molecular expansive soil models to understand and reproduce how the conveying pressure, dry density, and mineral type, salt solution temperature influence the swelling pressure of the expansive soil. And we also study the temperature and salinization, how the temperature and the salt solution influence the swelling behavior of the expansive soil. And also we study the stabilization mechanism for the cement stabilized expansive soil by using molecular simulations. All right, so that's all.
All right.
Thank you very much.